Rap music industry versus hip hop culture. That's what I'm going to name this segment because, again, we're actually going to watch another Torre and King Green segment from this. They dropped an entire live stream. It was about 2 hours long where they talked about TikTok, Trump, all this stuff, and it was a really good episode.
Was this the one like
just dropped
the past day?
It dropped on the last day. Yeah, so I took the first part from that, and then this is the second part of that because we had already planned to talk about TikTok and social media and the impact of that, and they have a little bit about that as well. So we're going to tie all that nonsense in together here, but this particular segment right here we go.
Early hip hop was revolutionary. It was countercultural. It was like, it was in many ways against America, right? America was afraid of it. Now it is the dominant culture in America. It is $1 billion industry, as you're saying. It can't be the counterculture. It can't be revolutionary anymore. But it can be a culture. But as we're saying, it lost the political spine. It lost some of the things that are central to what makes it what it is.
I think it's two different things. I think it's the rap music industry and then hip hop culture. I feel like those are two different things. It being a counterculture is possible with a smaller voice.
That is so important that I hear people say things like rap is bad in general. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, listen to the radio. And I'm like, the radio does not determine what hip hop is. It may determine it for a lot of people, but there's a lot of MCs who will never and don't want to be on the radio. Rap is much bigger than the music industry. So if you want to make a statement about hip hop, we have to talk about more than just the artists who are getting
and there's so many
played
subgenres. And someone asked a beautiful question: can subgenres become the new countercultures? What happens with countercultures nowadays is that people cosplay counterculture because it's new and someone's doing something honestly. Like, say if I come up with some new version of hip hop called hype hop or some shit like that, and it's focused on being super revolutionary and political, but still super energetic, and it has this new sound, and people are like dancing to it, but it's political, right? Someone else is gonna make that song, another person's gonna make that song. It's all about wearing the color green. Now everybody's wearing the color green. It happens. What would happen in 5 years happens in 2 months because of the internet. And then it becomes tired in the cycle, and it gets commodified by this company saying, this influencer, go ahead, put on a green shirt, and we want you to make a hype hop song and put it on this commercial. And like we said, anybody has a number. So now the kid that was coming from a counterculture perspective is like, they just offered me $700,000 to do my hype hop song for nerds candy. I'm taking the $750,000. I'm from St. Louis. I ain't got nothing but this music that I'm making. I'm gonna come out with this. Oh, and they want me to rev up the content about hating this certain group. Let me keep on doing that because that's gonna get my money. It happens rapidly. The commodification and the infiltration of the mainstream corporations and society goes directly into these countercultures, and they get killed very quickly.
So there's a lot there, but I really like this segment from Rap Latte. So please check this out if you want to see more of what they're talking about. But the way that they both tied in the subgenres in relation to TikTok, and then we also talk about the ban within itself, and then it came back, and then the last segment where Terry, you mentioned how all of these social media moguls, if you will, and not just social media moguls, but you're talking about Zuckerberg and Tim
Bezos.
Cook and all those people were at the Trump inauguration. This is all very loosely, well, not even loosely, this is all kind of tied together when we talk about the second part here with the subgenres and how hip hop can form and how it forms and everything. Do you guys have any comments in general based upon that and or the TikTok stuff? Or
well, with the TikTok thing specifically, when I saw it go away, I was like, oh, they were really serious about this. But then it comes back and it's like, oh, we're going to work with Donald Trump, even though he's the one that proposed it to be banned in the first place.
Yes.
That part.
The crazy thing that when I see Zuckerberg, and if you don't know who Mark Zuckerberg is, he's a guy who basically controls Facebook and Meta and Threads. Okay.
Instagram.
Yeah, it's exactly. And then you have Elon Musk, who is over, I still call it Twitter, but X. And so
That's stupid.
When you think about the size of these platforms, and then if, say, concessions are made to Donald Trump to maintain TikTok's viability, you're talking about not just social media, but you might be talking about state-run media and state-run by the Trump administration, because if anything happens on these platforms that they do not like, or, you know, the whole fact-checking thing, they're like, yeah, we don't like fact-checking, you know, so we can, you know, call everything fake news, you know, and so if just that protection goes away on all of these platforms, then you have to look at, okay, now, like I said, we're in an age where you're seeing these people who run these state-run, are we saying it? These social media platforms basically went to go kiss the ring. I'm being kind when I say kiss the ring.
But they did.
And so now what my fear is, you know, if you're still going to participate on any of these platforms that I mentioned, what are you going to be seeing? Now, me, I'm not as worried because, like, I'm just a little bit more savvy about things. I understand, I'm there to look at pictures of nice cars, dogs, transformers, and racially ambiguous women with large asses.
There you go.
You know, I'm very honest. My Explorer page, it tells my story on a regular basis, and maybe not the way that I would want people to know, but it is what it is. But say within that realm, all of a sudden I'm being introduced to some information that has nothing to do with, what my algorithm has been since I've been using these platforms. It starts to push, like, every once in a while, it'll just get something completely wrong. Like,
that brings up a very good point. Like, what concessions did TikTok make, or will TikTok have to make to keep its presence in the United States, right? Because we already know what Facebook and Meta has done.
Yeah, I have.
Right, we know what Twitter has done. It's Elon Musk. He's literally he's like the Doge panel or something. It's a clown show. Mm-hmm. But, like, will this have an effect on creatives and artists in the same type of manner, right? So that's really the conversation.
The thing about culture is there's been a culture shift, especially when it comes to hip hop. Hip hop is not the same hip hop that we came up on. The culture isn't ours anymore when it comes to hip hop. Once it took over a pop situation being the most popular form of music, we don't really own it the same way that we do. So it doesn't necessarily directly affect us or mirror what the culture is supposed to be.
So I think that was speaking back to the video that we just watched, that was one of the main arguments that King Green and Torrey were talking about, as how there is a significant difference between the music industry and hip hop culture.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, like, hip hop culture is still exists, but it is very different from what the music industry is, right? And how does hip hop culture exist within social media is really kind of the question. And can subgenres pop off, and grow? And
they already have, though, essentially. Because, I mean, we have people and we've talked about this endless times about how people literally make music just for TikTok. That is not the true essence of hip hop culture. That is a pop culture, a social media culture type of situation. It doesn't have anything to add to the culture of, it's just social media things.
Well, kind of. I mean, it's just a different way to promote to some degree, right?
But they don't care about the culture.
Who?
The artists that are putting out this particular type of music. They don't hold.
But I feel like everybody utilizes these social media platforms. Everybody
absolutely do. But as far as a cultural standpoint, for example, Sexy Red posted an AI picture of herself holding hands with Dr. Martin Luther King, with them face to face, essentially. Dr. King's daughter stated that, I think that was very distasteful for you to do that.
Right.
The reason why I bring that up is because previously in time, you wouldn't have an artist that would do that in hip hop, at least, because you respect them more than doing something that would be distasteful like that. I wouldn't have to tell you that's distasteful.
For sure.
And she apologized for it, but this is a reflection of what's going on, period.
As it relates to the culture.
Mm-hmm. It's not a rich culture as far as, what am I looking for? As far as, like, people are like aware, going to bat or aware of things. They don't care about it.
But I guess I still kind of pose the question, though. I feel like what you're describing here is the music industry, not necessarily hip hop culture. And I feel like they exist in the same space at the same time, and there is some overlap there, right?
It's just not the main focus of what hip hop culture is.
Look, when think about the times when we go see our friends, do something at one of the local spots. I can still say that's where I can still always take up for hip hop, because these are people who got to go to work the next day, and they still want to rhyme. They still want to DJ. They still want to, we know actual people who are still very much into the b-boy culture, and they're not going to see a dime from it. And it's not because they don't want to or there's no potential, but they're not thinking brand deal.
But would it be fair?
when they create their art? Let's just be honest. There's some people, if they don't create something that's going to maybe work in a McDonald's commercial or be able to sell some sort of earbuds or whatever, or wind up being played during halftime at a sports contest. That sounded old. But there are people that are like, okay, this is gonna do this, and I'm here. But when you make music that is truly what Tori referred to as counterculture, that's not where your head is at. You're trying to say something specific to somebody that may not be popular to the populace of people who might want to buy, potato chips. Like you can't. There are some people whose music is never going to be in a car commercial. It doesn't matter.
But what you described is, excuse me, what you described when you talked about the b-boys and the people that we know, that's the minority.
I think that's
core. That's core.
That's
culture.
Core. But also, I think, look, the people who actually, even with the intent of making music that is going to, let's just say bare minimum, get on the radio, okay? Because everybody can't get a brand deal. Everybody is not going to be able to do corporate events. So just say bare minimum, they want to get on the radio. That's still a very small amount of people that are able to get on the radio. There are people who were popular 2 years ago. They can't get a song spun on the radio for anything, and they're still on major labels. When's the last time? I mean, I know as a group we don't listen to the radio that often, but DaBaby, when's the last time DaBaby was on the radio? At one point, and I hate to always use him as an example, but you saw how quickly he was at the top of the game, and then all of a sudden, like, he's become a niche artist again.
That's because he qualified as somebody that could essentially be canceled.
Yeah.
But Terry's point about his example of MLK and Sexy Red, at least what I took from what you said, I think you're spot on as it relates to the lack of importance on the culture piece versus the actual hip hop piece, because we're talking about the two. It's not as important as it was. It's nowhere near close to being as important. I'm talking about when we speak of the conversation of upholding the culture, quote unquote. That's not even a thing anymore to me. I think everything else supersedes that, in my opinion.
I think that maybe I'm wrong here, but I think there's a difference from rap music and rap industry. The most popular genre, rap music. I don't call that hip hop music, because hip hop music isn't popular in that type of manner. Like in general, like the art of rapping over a rap beat is typically what's popular. And I feel like from an industry standpoint, that's where Sexy Red aligns. And I feel like, yes, sure, with social media, to King Green's point in what he said, he's like, instead of it taking long, it happens really fast, right? So it's in our face all the time, right?
Right.
But there's still plenty of people that are out here holding the flag for hip hop in a lot of capacities, and I feel like it's out there in a lot of ways, and I feel like the music is still being made, and it still exists in this area. But I feel like the things that you guys are talking about in general is rap music.
Well, let me reframe it a little bit. So, like, when we talk about what hip hop has evolved into as far as being the most popular genre, certain things as far as culture has went out of the door as far as that's concerned. Now, us as people that came from, again, like Jay Moore spoke about, the core of hip hop, and there are people coming up that do respect and want to honor the core of hip hop. I feel like there's a majority of people that don't really care. And the reason why I say that is because, so we have this situation going on with Drake and Kendrick, obviously. So you can say that one of them is definitely for the core hip hop head, so to speak. The other one is for the bad culture or the capitalist culture, so to speak.
To me, that's a perfect analogy of the rap music industry versus hip hop culture is Kendrick versus Drake. I think those are literally flags for each side.
Exactly. But you see who has, so they just named Drake the biggest artist for the past 10 years.
But who is they, right?
Well, they is Billboard or the music industry, so to speak.
Billboard, but Billboard again, we've reviewed their list. They're not.
Well, yeah, of course we don't.
I'm going to keep pushing back in general.
I know, but I'm speaking.
Billboard is about
metrics.
It's about
I'm
metrics.
speaking in general. I'm not speaking from us.
For sure.
We know what we like. We know what we enjoy. We know music, so to speak. But when we talk about the masses of people that pay attention to music, we know what they enjoy.
Rap music industry, I guess is what I'm saying.
Rap
or
industry
just the music. It turns into the music industry at this point because for an artist like Drake to be the top selling artist or the top artist of music in the past 10 years, it took on a different face.
Mm-hmm. Because there's nothing about Drake with him being the receiving that in terms of the list or whatever. When I see Drake, I don't think culture. I think pop artists.
Right.
I think popular music. I think record sales. I think Billboard. So when I look at him, it's like culture doesn't even pop up in my mind as opposed to Kendrick, who wouldn't be top whatever. He's all about that. So that's the. I don't know, man. It's just
to me, Kendrick's able to balance the two.
He does do both.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
And that's why I guess that's why I'm trying to distinguish the two differences. Like the differences as they highlighted is because like Kendrick does this, but he also understands how to move within this industry,
which he proved in G and X. He's proved it in his career, but I'm saying most recently.
But like, I guess. The stuff that, yes, this is I like this conversation, but I would also say like my question would be like with social media becoming corporatized, which it always has been, but like TikTok was one of those social media platforms where the algorithm really kind of benefits the consumer, whatever they want. It's really good I love TikTok because it gives me exactly what I want to see. Right. But it also benefited us on the show because it helped us reach specific people a lot faster, right?
True.
With it becoming potentially state property or like state media.
I see where you're going.
I like that.
I see where you're going.
Because Meta and
that's really
Twitter
good,
are state property at this point.
That's really good state property.
But shouts to,
Beans, we see.
But with that happening, I'm a little bit worried about how these apps are starting to take over and really control everything to where like everything that is the only thing that is going to work on these apps and the algorithms is going to be the rap music industry as opposed to the hip hop culture.
No, there's going to
thing, which I think is already kind of exists to a degree.
Oh, it's already there.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's already there, 100%.
But with apps like TikTok, you get a little bit of a flex of that, right? Mm-hmm. Instagram, not as much. Mm-hmm. YouTube is kind of in between, you know what I mean? But like more as this oligarchy continues to grow, as social media becomes more intertwined and as big business becomes the main thing, that pushes out culture, that pushes out everything else.
There's a video I put into our
chat.
Yeah, with Crooked Eye, where he said it's the worst thing ever that rap music and hip hop is the number one genre because it opened the floodgates for everything that we're talking about now. Right. He literally was just talking about this on a podcast like 8 or 9 days ago. And the conversation that we're having right now goes hand in hand with that because he talked about literally the ramifications of people who are not embedded in the culture having access to be dominant, to be able to be prevalent in a culture they care nothing about. And that happens a lot. So when we look at the pie chart for what's most important, I do think culture has consistently been pushed down. It still exists, to your point, so it's still there. But over time and attrition, it's just gone down to me.
I don't think the culture has gone down. I think the awareness.
How it's pushed. Awareness. That's what I meant to say. I misspoke.
Because it still exists. Like we haven't changed. We haven't.
True.
And there's this exists in younger people too as well. It's harder for those type. This has been we've known this for this type of music. We made our entire musical career.
We've always been us.
It becomes the minority of the minority.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we might have our glasses on to where we see things the same way that we've always seen it. But culture has shifted so much to where those same metrics don't matter. So when we even talk about social media, songs that get picked up on social media is based off what was catchy and what can I make a dance to.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? So the one of the latest ones is How Do You Want It from Tupac, which came out in 1996. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
That's a dance for it.
That's one of the most popular songs on TikTok right now.
Tweaker is a great example.
Tweaking,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's been out for about 3 weeks.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, essentially, the kids or the people on these platforms decide what's going to pop.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads to his point about subgenres. So there might be a subgenre of just a TikTok type of situation where I only make music for TikTok.
People do that already.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. It just doesn't have a name for it, essentially. It's like, what did he say? Hype hop.
Yeah.
Like, and he talked about, well, if they're gonna pay me $700,000, and I'm gonna show up and do it.
Yeah.
That eliminates the culture and the bias and the actual moral that you stood on. It eliminates all of that. At one point in time, there was a code. Shout out to The Wire. You know what I'm saying?
It's a good show.
That code is gone.
Yeah.
As far as what people stand for, it's out the door. It's like, I stand for whatever. I'm trying to get a bag, and unfortunately, things have turned to the capitalistic side of things.
So that's where I was going to go, because I feel like it all denigrates. It all comes down to my favorite word, right? Because that's what capitalism erodes to all the time, and we are in an extreme version of that with our oligarchy that we're at right now.
So I'd be capping. We all would be capping if we said rappers rap to get paid. That's been going on.
Right.
So people want to make money, right? But it's been because of how popularized it's become, that has been shifted more to the forefront in the mentality of people that are rappers now, because they're giving it out so freely. Like, money is so accessible when you're associated with hip hop. The rest of it kind of gets pushed to the backside.
And this is also why, like, again, I'm anti-capitalist, because I feel like it doesn't matter. It's hard for art to exist in such a type of societal structure, because it's always going to be commodified, and we're always going to look at it as artists like, all right, cool, yeah, I can make this cool art, but how much of this percentage do I have to sacrifice to be able to reach this over here? And within capitalism, it's always going to be the case. And we're literally seeing right now is a perfect example to see this, not only across music, but literally everything. Yeah. Because as we saw, again, all these rich media tech companies sitting at Trump's inauguration,
billionaires,
right behind
together.
It's where we're at.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah.
If you're going to make rap industry music, you've already made a decision. All right, then I'm going to participate in this system, whether it's exploiting me or I found a way to get through a loophole to where I'm able to get some money.
Yeah.
That these things are going to be very tied together in the next few years when we talk about social media, to even be able to locate what is considered counterculture within, like I said, rap industry music is different than hip hop. Okay. What Drake has done very successfully, and this is not a knock, and I know some people are going to feel it's like that, but he has done better at creating rap industry music in the last 10 to 12 years than anybody
Ever.
That's facts.
Yeah.
That's facts.
Because, you know, his everything, there is a profit motive behind all of his art. And I'm not mad at him, because like everybody's like, oh, I could do that. No, you can't.
No, you can't.
Okay.
Yeah,
he has mastered making, you know, rap industry music that all has a profit motive, whether it's that house album he did, whether he's the music he does with 21 Savage. He has figured out a way to, you know, I mean, he's a little lost in the woods now, but after that whooping he got from Kendrick, that's what happens. If you are selling records like they used to do, when Public Enemy's on Def Jam, like they're still putting a marketing budget and they're trying to figure out singles. So it's not like even the music that was done from a revolutionary standpoint, there wasn't a profit motive considered, but that wasn't the primary goal of why, you know, Chuck D did Welcome to the Terror Dome. It's crazy because Welcome to the Terror Dome did wind up in, you know, an Xbox game.
True.
You know, with Peyton Manning on the cover. It's just kind of crazy how things like that happen. But I think that's more organic. I don't think he sat down and wrote "Welcome to the Terror Dome" thinking, "Okay, this is going to be an Xbox on an Xbox game in 12 years." Yeah, you know. But I'm there. Like I said, we've talked about how some people are like, "Okay, I'm going to write this jingle." I think a lot of these people, they're not even writing songs; they're writing jingles, potential jingles.
For sure.
You know, and that's the difference.
Pusha T.
Man,
that he intentionally did that.
Man,
yep.
You know, but when he did, Mr. Me Too, I don't think he was thinking.
Absolutely.
He was not thinking, okay, I'm going to get this and I'm going to get my publishing check from having this and being and this, that, and the third commercial for, Mop and Glow. I don't know. I had such a random, I don't even know if Mop and Glow is still there.
I mean, this conversation, we can chop this up 100 different ways. The rap versus
I love this conversation.
Bro, there's so many things that we can talk about for hours upon hours about the difference between and pros and cons and sub this and counter that. There's so much stuff that can be talked about here.
And I think when we still talk about hip hop, we got to think about that's who I feel like that's where the culture still lies, where people definitely are putting the artistic. They're not writing jingles. They're writing from their heart and they're creating something that they feel is going to be a definitive art, whether 1 million people or just 1,000 people listen to it.
That goes to what Lone and actually both of you alluded to. It's there. Like, I'm not saying that it's not there.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't say it wasn't there either.
But it's just, when we talk about they and the mainstream, it's just different.
But people are going to play these algorithm
But at the same time, too, though, we have a responsibility, I feel, and I had to learn this, to just push what you like.
Yes.
Push it to the forefront. Use your platform to expand and push forward the stuff that you say is what you believe in. Like, if more people start doing that, it doesn't matter what else is going on.
Yeah.
Well, it boils down to as well
degree,
as
but-
cultural integrity.
Yeah.
Cultural integrity is what a lot of people don't have and don't possess.
True.
Like when somebody sits down and talks to a Lil Yachty who has actually evolved into an alright artist versus who he was before. He doesn't know certain people and certain artists that we deemed as champions of the culture.
Right.
He literally just started listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have an artist that comes up and is deemed hip hop or rap, you don't even know what you came from or what is supposed to have inspired you. And I'm not saying that just because somebody's been around for a long time that they had to inspire you to do something. Mm-hmm. But you as a hip hop artist, I think it is your duty to know
where you come from,
the cloth that you are cut from, essentially.
Yep.
And I feel like, me personally, that a lot of people that want to rap could care less about that cloth. They just want to get in and
But you know why?
And that boils down to what he said as far as the countercultures. But where do those cultures fit in the long run as far as hip hop is concerned?
And not to get on Lil Yachty, but like him not knowing, who came before him and being influenced by that. What is the incentive for him or anybody else? Because without having that influence, he still got a deal with Sprite from the Coca-Cola company.
He did.
He still got a deal with Axe body spray. So he's doing what he did without the influence or the understanding of the influence, got him in bed with corporate America. Honestly, and what I felt he was doing was countercultural. When I hear a song like Cold Like Minnesota, like I didn't think that
that wasn't even supposed to be a real song.
I'm like, I didn't expect that to be in a Sprite commercial. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's what he got out in front of it to do. But,
right.
That's where, say, why should I listen to this quote unquote, foundational music that came and created the building blocks of hip hop when I get all this without knowing any of that?
It goes back to what Terry's talking about when he talks about, we've used the word morality, principles. Prime example, Joey Badass, he just turned 30. That is a person that's younger, that is the opposite. Clearly, based off the music that he drops, how he moves, his visuals, he still cares about the culture. It's in his music.
Yeah.
So
and I know young people that still care about the culture as well.
Yeah, like that he's the prime example to me. The joint he just dropped, that's the culture.
I mean, but that's the culture to us.
To us.
Because you know what? Because there's
everybody.
It should be.
There it is.
Once again, it should be. But when you're talking about somebody there, I remember when Soulja Boy first came out. And he's like, yeah, man, I listen to some old school stuff, like 50 Cent's first album. It's about perspective.
But that's old school to him.
That's old school to him. So now if I'm an 18-year-old rapper, we're talking about somebody like, do you know how, like, trying to talk to them about Pete Rock and CL Smooth or Tribe Called Quest is the same as, when I was 18, somebody trying to talk to me about Chubby Checker.
But I'll tell you this much, though. I will say this, even with the older rappers that preceded us and preceded our era, I did my due diligence to at least know who they were, I did. So that goes back to the whole conversation about morality and how people are wired. Everybody's different. This is true. But Terry's point about everybody not being like that is the reason why. Like the majority is not that way.
If you are a 16, 17-year-old kid who's making music in his bedroom and your aspiration, like your OG is Drake. That is old school,
it's terrible.
Know. I mean, but once again, the person who you consider to be old school, like I said, he is the master of rap industry music. And so that's your influence. And that is, and to a certain extent, that's your culture. You know, like I said, if I'm a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid in my basement making beats, trying to put a couple rhymes together, and I'm looking at Drake as the measuring stick of success, as opposed to like maybe at one point when I was looking at Run DMC and they sold 500,000 to 1 million and they was happy to get a tennis shoe deal, as opposed to Drake, who has everything essentially except, you know,
or your OGs failed you and didn't listen to good music.
I mean, that could be it. But like maybe, but at the same time, maybe there's, like I said, there is a kid who is 17, 18 and he studies Kendrick under a microscope. I mean, so like, and who's not, like I said, he is a part of the rap industry. But when I hear, you know, especially an album like To Pimp a Butterfly, that is not rap industry music.
But why is it so unique to hip hop though? That's my question, because
is it unique or
it's not?
I don't think it's unique.
I think it's unique.
Or are you really educated enough to be able to say that though on the other genres?
Here's why. Because this is just me sitting back watching, right? I always hear,
but that's just people.
No, I'm talking about legitimate artists, like artists that are in R&B. I always hear them reference Stevie Wonder, Al Green. All these people were out before they were born, before we were born. So they can always, October London, tapping into Marvin Gaye. How old is he? But why is it so easy for people that are R&B singers or whoever, rock or whatever, to tap back into the culture that preceded them?
I think,
why is that so easy?
I think you are, again, to try to bring this all back to the point, right? Because like, we kind of veered off a little bit. Like I think what you're referencing here is you view these other artists that you're talking about that you like. I'm guessing you also like these artists that are referencing Stevie Wonder and all this other stuff?
The majority of them, but not all of them.
But probably most of them that you just
I would
referenced,
say the most. I would say most. Yep. I would say
You're
most.
comparing the artists that you do like that do that to artists that you do not like in hip hop that don't do that. You see what I'm saying?
That's fair.
All the artists that you do like that are a part of hip hop culture, not necessarily the rap music industry, are doing the same thing.
That's fair. That's fair.
I feel like I don't know.
But I'm using the other genre as an example because I don't see the conversation about, I don't see it being an issue as much in other genres as I do in hip hop. Or maybe it's just
I think you care about it more. Maybe
I do care. Maybe I care too much.
Absolutely what it is.
You know,
so maybe I care too much.
It's like people that don't grow up in the hood don't know what the hell goes on in the hood. That's why they're oblivious to it.
Facts.
But I think, you know, because we were going into very much about how the social media influence of what the culture, how the culture is being influenced. I think if you are someone, like I said, who makes rap industry music, the social media algorithm is going to be great for you because there are going to be there's going to be a lot of money put behind you to boost up your, you know, the same thing that Drake is complaining about now. That's going to be something I think the veil is if you didn't already know, it's definitely, you know, the basically seeing Oz pulling the strings back there right now.
Yeah,
we're in a position right now with the culture to where, you know, when you look at something that pops up on your screen, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, X, you're going to be like, I'm wary enough to know it's like, I didn't want to see that. Where is that coming from? But there are people whose minds, you know, their frontal lobe hasn't completely formed yet to where they're going to be greatly influenced by how much they look at their screen. And if they are into hip hop, it's like, okay, what hip hop is going to be pushed to them as viable?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so like what we talk about as counterculture, you know, like that's gonna be pushed down. Like
it's gonna be a challenge.
It's going to be a challenge to find it because it's not going to show up in the algorithm, even if you have made it a point to hit the like on that whenever you're interested. Because, you know, about this might be agenda setting, where it's like, okay, I don't want to see Sexy Red in her foolishness. Not to pick on her, but that's just who, is the lightning rod, and people will understand what I'm saying. But I don't want to see Sexy Red. I want to see this kid over here who, rhymes about, why, so many Chinese people are in Africa. Well, I want to see that. Why is he talking about, these geopolitics? I want to see more of that. But all I get is, ass shaking and fast cars, and then it's like, okay, who's setting this agenda on our social media?
It's the propaganda that Donald Trump and his comrades have set up.
Right.
That's exactly what's about to happen with social media.
Not comrades. You're going to get the...
Man.
Well, that's literally what's going on.
I mean,
I feel you, though.
If you call them comrades, they're going to get offended because that's communist over here. So,
Well,
that's China, even though China isn't communist. But
I see you, Long.
Yeah. No, that's a conversation I think we could continue to talk about. But I think we also saw within this conversation how very much when we talk about the subgenres and how it starts to branch off into other things too. When you start talking about the influences of different people, when you're talking about like our influences and who we thought were great versus if Soulja Boy is making ass music in 2006, but he's doing it for the art, he's doing hip hop. It's just what it is.
He cares about his trash music.
That's his subgenre.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that's different than the other type of approach. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's lots of different ways we can get into. So I like this conversation. We could keep going, but I think we should probably end it here.
And we probably should because again,
it's another hour of this at least.
To circle it back to Drake and Kendrick.
Yeah.
Kendrick kind of aligns with a core hip hop, culture, so to speak. And then Drake aligns with the capitalistic culture, so to speak. But at the end of the day, both of them are pop.
I got a React video coming out tomorrow from an FD Signifier video that says the title is "If You Like Drake" or "If Drake is Your Favorite Artist," and in the description says you're probably a loser.
I think I watched that. I watched that.
Yo,
I'm dropping that tomorrow at 11 to react to that, but it's a great video.
Yeah.
I don't know why that concept is so hard to grasp. The difference between the two, like
I just think we get it. I think we just get it. Again,
I don't understand why the concept is so hard to grasp.
It's the programming. It's the programming. It's where we come from. It's everything that we learn.
It's the new DEI. So they got rid of DEI for what makes sense.
And they call
for
what's
America.
It called now?
What is it called now?
At least in Indiana, somebody came up with a new term or something.
Yeah, replaced by. MEI.
There it
MEI,
is.
Yeah.
What's that mean, Long?
It means merit, excellence, and intelligence.
Yeah, there it is.
So yeah, the new DEI, and this kind of goes back to our conversation about
so stupid
about Nelly and Snoop even being picked to participate in this inauguration situation. Yeah. They're the new DEI, so they only agree with DEI that's beneficial to them.
Yeah, because that's what that was. They chose them because they needed to fit somebody that was a little bit darker skin complexion to be a part of their thing.
Yeah.
Well, and part of the reason,
you have to appease to the one person at the Trump rally that's black.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Part of the reason, people on the right, Republicans don't like DEI is because they're so bad at it. I mean, they did DEI, and that's where you get Clarence Thomas from.